All right. Hey, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Osmic here. It's going to be your sit rep. It is 6/20/2024. Coming to you live here from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas. As we get into the deets, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, man. I tell you, the world feels like it is just on the brink. The things that we are doing, the things that we're seeing everywhere would be a big indicator that we are headed straight into war. It is coming. The only thing that I can see deterring any war would be a Trump coming into office. Other than that, I think we're breakneck speed headed towards massive war and basically copying World War II. We look at everything that's going on around the world and we're basically emulating it. Scary times, to say the least, but faith over fear. I ain't worried about it. Hey, look, before we get started, let me just say this. Satellite Phone Store, they are the sponsor of this video today. And if you haven't done so and you're thinking about getting a satellite phone, listen, just jump over to sat123.com. That's sat123.com. They've got a killer deal going right now. Inmarsat phone, it's a satellite phone that actually it's included in the deal is the phone, plus you get 100 minutes or text every month. $74.95 a month. That's as low as I've seen it yet. It's a 12-month agreement. After that agreement's done, you are basically on a lower value than that probably for your monthly plan. So you will own that phone and it'll be good. But hey, look, if you want something other than the Inmarsat, we can do the Iridium Sat 9555 or the 9575. This is the one that I have. It's a fantastic phone, and my family have this phone. Great phones. Again, you don't have to have another satellite phone to talk to someone. You could be in a zone where the tower's down and it's good, say in Florida, and I can pick up my satellite phone and I can call Florida instantly and connect to my family down there. But they've got other family plans too. You can get 3, 2, whatever you're really feeling that you need. They've got the Bivy sticks going. And then, of course, this one right here, I'm going to order one of these today for myself. But this is basically, it's a dual protection Faraday and ballistic backpack. You know, you talk about your husbands, your spouse, your wives going into work every single day and dealing with threats that they don't even know are there or not. You know, workplace violence is a real thing. Throw your stuff in the backpack here. You can, one, prevent anybody from tracking your cell phone or your devices inside of this bag. And also you got bulletproof protection. That's pretty slick. Absolutely way to go. And then, of course, they got Faraday pouches as well. So, again, sat123.com. That's sat123.com. Or you can give them a call, 941-841-0844, and tell them Monkey sent you. All right, let me do this. I'm going to bounce us over here to the Skyglass, the best flight tracker on the planet. And this currently setting up a 201 military aircraft in the sky over the United States, 201. I've already stripped out all the trainers. The thing that kind of stands out is when you kick this up to the side, you can see the high flyers, right? There's at least 4 or 5 that we can see right here around 80,000 feet. Those are part of the ISR suite. Not familiar with ISR? Intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. It's a word we use here a lot. And just, if you want to be familiar with the acronyms that we're throwing out there. But these guys are listening and doing anything and everything over the United States 24/7. So there is no stone unturned when you take this coupled with the military suites and then the civilian third-party intelligence gathering. It's just insane capabilities that are out there. So, okay, now let's get into the deets of what this is we're looking at military-wise. Starting off on our watch list, we have 3 KC-135s coming back from, it looks to be Alaska. More than likely, those are bringing fighters back and forth. Notice these 2 Intel balloons. That's in addition to the ones I just showed you. These are headed northbound to our new southern border of Canada. Because we really have no southern border here in the United States anymore. That right there is a little different than your regular R-135. That one is actually ballistic missile reentry R-135. All right, so we'll have to see if we got any type of indicator that we've got something coming back in. And then see the broken trace? That's a dignitary headed down to what looks to be Guantanamo Bay. I see some Brio doing some intel gathering there over the Chesapeake region. And then you can see just several E3s, a couple R135s doing the regular signal intel stuff. We'll look at those closer here in detail over the last couple of days. But this is Europe in terms of the watch list, right? Down towards Israel. We'll talk a little bit more about Israel at the back end of this sit rep today. That's the State Department coming in and out. It looks like Amman, Jordan, back to Baghdad. They have an aircraft over there. They go back and forth quite a bit. And then a low-altitude Q-9 drone over Japan, to the northern end of Japan, actually. All right, Q-9, that's the one that's got the propeller job on it, so it's not super high altitude like a Q-4, all right? Okay, let's talk ISR. This is going to be your intel side of the house. Big takeaway is the stuff that's bouncing out down over the danger box area of Southern California. See some transitions back and forth over Central Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, and then over Savannah. Seeing a lot more activity over the Savannah area. All right, and then we'll take us over to Europe here just to see what's going on. Whoa, that's pretty busy, isn't it? Look at the amount of stuff that we've been doing. Remember, this is the ISR stuff. Again, intel, surveillance, reconnaissance. It could be, it's all third party for the most part, or military intel. It's not the R135s. This is stuff that is doing a little bit different. It could be doing anything from gathering intelligence in terms of cell data, sat data, radar data, imagery. It could be doing a lot of different things. All right, continuing on with that, let's jump over to the drones. All I see are really low altitude drones. I see them over the Baltic Sea, north of Denmark, and then you drop down over the Mediterranean. I see some very low altitude stuff, clearly looking at the ships in the region. No Q9, Q4 over the last 3 days. We normally see a Forte flight jumping out there. Nothing. Very unusual. And then across the United States, just notice the transition. You got one popped up over the Chesapeake, and then that transition with a broken trace headed out over the Pacific, and then over towards the danger box on the left coast. All right, that's going to be your drones. And then let's talk sub-hunters. Now, the interesting piece to this one is just notice it's down towards Cuba, right? We know the Russians are down there. It's off the East Coast. We expect that. The normal locations, right? Get out here to the left coast, and you can see we got something that transitioned up to Alaska. And then from Alaska, it looks to be over to the Asian side of the house. We've got them stationed in Okinawa. But it's interesting that that one seemed to have traveled over to Seoul, South Korea. All right. And then you can see a little bit of low altitude work there over the Baltic region, Baltic Sea. And then, of course, up towards Norway, out over Constanta near the Black Sea, a little bit of spying on Israel, and then you can see in and out of the Persian Gulf side. Again, sub-hunters, Navy P-8s, P-3s. Let's talk R135s. Now, this is SIG Intel. This is going to be looking at cell tower data, whatever it may be. Notice this little snake tongue that's looking down over Mexico, probably listening to cartel, etc. That one right there, clearly listening to the Ruskies. This is the last 3 days. Sorry, 3 days. Started to say 5. 3 days worth of data. Actually kind of light for an R135. And then, of course, you can see them just surrounding Kaliningrad. There's literally nothing happening in Kaliningrad that we don't have eyes on. And then looking at St. Petersburg, Russia. Can you imagine if the United States had the Russians up in our business every single day along our east coast, along our left coast, spying and listening to everything that was going on? We would be throwing a fit if the Russians did what we were doing to them, to us. All right, let's talk E6 for a minute. This is where it gets interesting. Now, you may notice you see some on the left coast, you see them on the right coast, and a little bit north towards the Canadian border. That's an interesting data point for me and you. I don't know what it's there for, but we know why they go off to the left and right coasts, but that doesn't stop there. I want to show you something. This was actually one of the Monkey Squad grabbed this one for me, and always has eyes on. I'm literally sleeping. I wake up to this, and I'm like, this is going to be golden. So check this out. Iron, call sign Iron 01. This is an E6. What's really crazy is it didn't capture on my traces. Maybe it will tomorrow, but I ran it to today, and it didn't show up. This is an E6 headed to Norway, folks. Very unusual. Very unusual. I can count on one hand the amount of times I've seen an E6 depart the United States. This headed into Norway, that's not really a good sign because I think we're getting close. Now, I know today is June 20th. It's the last day of spring, first day of summer. We didn't see a spring offensive going on. In fact, every indication that I see, it looks to me like we've pushed everything into RZE Poland, into the forward operating base locations, and into the rest of Europe. But nothing's gone hot. And if I look at the map of activity from the Ukrainian standpoint attacking the Russians in those border areas of Ukraine, it's been very little. It almost feels like they're just holding on to everything they got for some type of blitz, okay? So just, I see the E6 going across the drink, and I've been watching all of this stuff gather up into Europe without it going hot. It tells me that, that I think we're getting ready to go to war. It's just too many indicators around the world that emulate exactly what's been going on when we led up to war in World War II. So, okay. There's that aspect. Let's talk AWACS for a minute. Now, remember, this is advanced warning for the most part. They have a lot of different capabilities, but you see them over kind of that northern Nevada side. You see them off the East Coast. They're looking for nukes, right? But they can do all kinds of things. Track ship activity, track aircraft activity, man in the middle. They have a lot of different capabilities. Anytime you see that perfectly round circle that we talk about, that's usually man in the middle. You see that's up towards the Baltic Sea. And then you get down, look at the three of them over France. Now, that may be because we got the Olympics coming up and the French are probably very concerned about something, happening in that region, all right, given their current migrant policy and problem, okay? Again, AWACS. And then off of the east coast of Australia, down under. And, all right, let's move over to, we talk AWACS for a minute. We talk SIGINTEL. Check this out right here. I'm going to take this away. I want to show you the nukes sniffer. All right. This is a nuke sniffer, R135 over the United States. You can see going from point A to point B, clearly doing some atmospheric sniffing. And then down low, kind of to the western side of Nebraska. That's a little more concerning right there because that is at altitude that doesn't look to be running runway approaches. Okay. Okay. Back to the Mini. And let's get into more of this. Let's talk Graybirds for a minute. If you're not familiar with the Graybirds and who those are, it's going to be your agency boys for the most part. Just notice you got some capability that went up to Alaska. What are we been talking a lot about Alaska? And we've seen the AWACS up there, the R135, the nuke sniffers up there, the signal intel. We know they're based out of that location. Notice the one jumps across the drink here into England and down in. That means you got your agency boys in Crete and Malta. And then check this out. What are they doing over here? A little bit out of the norm. And that is Baku. So got some agency folks there. That's the last 5 days. All right. So, okay. Now let's talk B-52s because we're going to be talking a little more about that here in just a minute. But look at the 52s leaving. Looks like we got them leaving, headed out west. And we got them, which I don't know what they're doing over that particular area in Southern California. Kind of unusual. Maybe there's a bomb comp going on in Nellis or something. They're just in the region. A little bit to the north, you see that one broken trace as it heads across the drink. You see another one going across the drink. And where does it fly? It kind of jumps down around the North Sea and then lands over here in southern UK and England. Again, B-52s or B-1s, these are all my bombers on the watch list, but we'll talk a little more about B-52s here in just a minute, okay? All right, now look at your air refuelers. This tells a story. Notice the flurry of activity in and out of Bahrain into Iraq. All right, that's supporting stuff probably in Syria. Notice the traffic out over the Mediterranean. And then, of course, you've got them near Constanta. A lot of marshalling points over Poland. So, again, big indicator. We got a lot of fighters going on over there. So just we'll pay close attention to that. But very interesting to say the least. Those are transitions. So something going across the drink. Could have been B-52s. Doubt it. They got the fuel to get there without having to refuel. Probably fighters going across. Notice out over the Gulf of Mexico, down to the tip near Key West, off the East Coast. That's probably because of the presence of the Russians there. And then a really unusual one down towards Panama. And then you see one going into Colombia, back and forth. Right? Very strange for air refuelers. Okay. Now let's talk, as we get into this side of it, we're going to talk Omni. All right. So let's look at the third-party DoD contractor work. All right. That just kind of sums it all up. Not just Omni. It's a bunch of different, it's a conglomerate of aircraft. But this is who picked up for Swift Air. Notice all the activity at the border. Notice the flights to Hawaii. Is that all troops? Probably taking some migrants out to Hawaii. Notice the border stuff, right? Down near Brownsville. Okay. Back up into the heart of the United States. All right. Same thing we saw Swift Air doing. Biggs Army Airfield. Mexico. Central America. Multiple locations in Central America. That's why I said the southern border really isn't at the southern border. It's up north. It's near Canada because we have no southern border. They want to tell you that, things have slowed down. Operation Lone Star is working great. Reality is they're putting them on airplanes, flying them right over the border, past everything, bringing them right into the United States. Hasn't let up one bit. They're just putting them on airplanes instead of making them walk. All right. And then, of course, you get over to the European side of the house, and I do believe this is probably all troop related. Just notice where they're headed into Italy, Poland, Eastern Europe, etc. Okay. All right. Well, let's press on. This is we'll get into the news cycle here. We've been talking a lot about Ecuador. This becomes kind of interesting because what's going on down there, right? You may have noticed in the last sit rep I showed you, the C-17 flights down there, the Omni flights, we just saw them headed down into that region. There's been a lot of activity in Ecuador. This right here is kind of interesting. Ecuador suspends the Chinese visa waiver deal to curb illegal migration. Imagine that. I would imagine this is probably our agencies down there putting the squeeze on some folks, but it looks like they have maybe stopped some of the Chinese from coming in. If that is indeed the case, then what does that tell us is really going on here, right? That's really your big key takeaway. The fact that they suspend the Chinese waiver deal tells you that our suspicions were accurate. Why would you do that if there is no harm? If it's just, illegals wanting to have a better living, coming over here to the United States for better life, et cetera, why would they do that? I don't know. Well, check this out. They did it, and then look what happened here. Coincidence? Maybe. Power outage leaves millions of Ecuadorians in the dark after the transmission line fails. Now, the interesting piece of this is guess who handles all of the electricity down in Ecuador? The Chinese. What are the odds? What are the odds? They cancel our stuff? Okay, well, here, we'll just kill the power. Let you guys sort that one out. Okay, over here to Flashbang. So he is at the beach and then headed, obviously, over here to Hagerstown. He's going to Camp David. Again, you see an E6 going across the drink. You see him headed to the bunker. Little bit, for me, a little bit of a red flag. So we'll see what happens. Okay. Now, speaking of Zibunka, look at this. Bidenomics. National debt increases by another $500 billion in just 20 days. Absolutely insane. But the interesting piece to this is just the fact that you see our debt is just going through the nose. This is really the big takeaway right here. Do you see this red? That's your debt. Each one of these are different presidents. So this is the Clinton right here. Then you got Bush here, and then you got Obama, right? All a bunch of deep staters. And then look right here at Obama when all of a sudden somebody flipped on the spin button during the Obama regime. And then when Trump comes into office, this thing is basically in a free fall. It didn't stop. It's still going. You had the COVID piece came in, and then, Bidenomics kicks in. Our debt to income ratio the books aren't balanced. It's in a very bad place. If you and I ran our business this way, we would be out of business rapidly. They would own everything we had. It would be really bad. But This is your revenue line. Notice the plummet here on the green line right here that just drops down and it does not come back up. Okay, so the federal revenue is plummeting. The debt is accelerating, right? Way out of balance. And then the deficit is here. It's going this way because, I mean, just trying to keep up with the interest on the loan value is just, it's really bad. But let's move on. It's why you have 59 countries talking to the BRICS folks. 59. It was 27, I think, last time we checked in late last year. All right. But 59, that tells you there's a lot of even smaller countries that are saying, hey, it's time, we're getting off the dollar. All right. Check this out. The U.S. Air Force is talking about ditching the older F-22s, creating basically a high-risk capability gap here for here's the thing. The Block 20s, retire 32 Block 20s. These Block 20s are being used for training. So when they get rid of those, that means they're going to have to take active, higher-end block counts to do their training in, okay? May or may not be a bad thing, but you're taking them basically out of active duty service to do the training. And that's why this is a big thing. Again, all we see are really stupid moves being made by our government when it comes to our defense, whether it's porous southern border, whether we're allowing the economic spend go beyond what we're capable of even paying back. It's just one thing after another after another. Our exposure from a homeland security standpoint it just seems to just continue. It doesn't stop. We're doing very little to mitigate it, at least anything near term. Everything seems to be 5 years out. All right. Okay. This is why we're talking B-52s. Look at this. Congress wants to restore nukes on conventional B-52 bombers. Look, they carry belly bombs, but that's a little bit different. They're not talking about doing gravity bombs. They're talking about basically doing the wing mount pylons again with the cruise missiles on them. And they're saying this is kind of the interesting piece. They say the New START treaty currently set to expire in February 2026, about 2 years out. But the treaty expires in 2026, and the prospect of Russia coming to the table for serious arms control discussions are incredibly unlikely. That's coming from the House Armed Services Chairman, Mike Rogers. Okay. So it's just an interesting deal because they are really starting to say that, hey, look, the probability of us going into an all-out nuclear war with Russia is extremely high. And we need to get back to the times before all these treaties came in. Let's let them expire, and then we got no constraints because Russia, at the end of the day, is not really abiding to any of their stuff. Okay, so, all right. Now, we talked Ecuador. This is why this is important. Just note that as of June 17th, there was a USS George Washington parked down here off the coastline, a little bit south of Ecuador, but it probably, handles or hangs out between that area, right? A little south, a little north between Peru and probably Ecuador. But having that capability off the shoreline is it's a pretty big deal. And it would explain why we see all of the aircraft activity headed down there. And then you give in the blackouts and all the other stuff. It's interesting. There's something going on in Ecuador. We're probably not hearing the whole story, right? Okay, speaking of, we can kind of go down and look. I don't see anything down here box-wise from a NOTAM perspective. We got the danger boxes continuing off the left and right coast. I see the bunker TFR coming into play right here. That's with Flashbang. He's currently here. That's why those are red. This will go red over the weekend. And then, of course, it looks like the NASA experiment stuff up here has discontinued, and we've got this big box over Iceland. All right. Everything else looks to be kind of normal. I'm not seeing any long missile boxes, which are interesting, except for these two right here look to be tied to some type of missile. Rocket Lab limited rocket debris return. Okay. I don't know how far out an aircraft in the U.S. can track this kind of stuff. Seems like it would be a little out of its range, but Okay, Biggs Army Airfield, not too much going on other than I see what looks to be a rotation. We saw the Delta Airline flight come in. Now it's headed to Guantanamo Bay. More than likely, that's going to be just doing a troop rotation. They do it about every 3 months out there. Royal Air Force, from the Brits' perspective, I've got 3 flights up, and they look to be in and out of Europe, and pretty much all of them in and out of Europe. Canberra flight, just 1. All right, got 1 leaving. Ramstein coming back to the United States. Really light, actually. And then, of course, we get over to Ramstein, and you can see you got 1 inbound Canberra flight from Kuwait. Then it leaves destination unknown. Hasn't left yet, departure-wise. What is catching my eye are these. This right here, this BRK-37, I'm pretty sure this is going to be one of those Intel birds that we see. Black Wolf, I think, maybe. But these, that's a C-17 inbound, and that right there is a Dignitary coming in and out. Looks like it's headed to Stuttgart, coming in from Terceira, but that's going to be Dignitary, blue and white. Okay. This is going to be Forward Operating Base, RZE Poland. The interesting thing, I see German Air Force in. It seems to be kind of light, headed in and out of RZE. And I see them leaving, but I don't see anything. There's the German Air Force leaving. I don't see anything large that catches my eye like we've been watching with the 747s. So looks like got a little bit of a quiet day there in the Forward Operating Base. This is one of your Omni flights. We've already looked at the Omnis, but this is coming from Travis to Travis. And just looking at it, that may be a test hop or something. Kind of an unusual pattern, you know. All right, National Cargo coming out of Toronto, RZE Poland, 747. So you can see they're still going in. Mexico City to Orlando, that's kind of a strange. I'm thinking migrants. I hate to say that. Wouldn't surprise me. Okay. All right. Now let's talk Israel for just a minute here. Israel military approves a plan for an offensive inside of Lebanon. Yeah, we know Hezbollah is hot and heavy into the north of Israel. And so it looks like they're getting ready to go into Lebanon and get this party started. So interesting piece, to say the least. That right there is a U.S. military uniform. That's U.S. So why are they showing U.S. military? I see a missile defense system behind here. That's IDF over here. Anyway, all right. Hezbollah chief says nowhere in Israel will be spared in case of a full-blown war. I think we're headed towards something that looks this way. There's just a lot of stuff. They keep talking about these new weapons. We've seen the drone activity that comes from Israel. But you know, we just have to keep eyes on it because it looks like there's no indication that the Israeli piece is settling down. In fact, I think this is going to just keep on going until Israel says, okay, we're done. All right, last little piece, and we pay attention to this because we're seeing more and more of these little kamikaze drones. The technology is getting more and more advanced, but this is one of those deals that you can see. Somehow we just sold them 1,000 kamikaze drones going into Taiwan. And now keep in mind, these are the loitering drones. Okay, so what happens is they pop up, they hang out at altitude, and they basically just loiter until they get a target, and then they go straight in and take out that target. So pretty wild and cool technology, but these drones are just, they seem to be popping up everywhere. And so anyway, just one more piece into the big puzzle of the war machine. It looks like the the military industrial complex is kicking things into high gear as always. All right. So listen, that is going to do it for our sit rep today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. For those in the live chat over in the Q&A, sit tight. We'll get that started here in just a couple minutes. All right. That's it. Be safe. God bless. Monkey out. artisan handcrafted soaps. Get yours in the Monkey Works shop today.